Everyone, we're going to welcome to this session, and we're going to walk you through our recruiting firm optimizer model. It is a way for you to kind of get clear with where you're at and where your opportunities, frankly, lie in growing and building your recruiting business. Um, the optimizer model is something we spent years developing. I'm going to walk you through this model. There's three core areas, and each core area has three key components. If all nine are in place, whether you're a solo operator or running a $10 million business, you're going to have a firm that we kind of call a real business. It's kind of working and running a lot or a little bit without you. So what you might want to do is easiest thing is if you pause this video, we've got three highlighters, a green, a yellow, and a pink or a red. Is the easiest because the visual aspect of this is really helpful for you to kind of gauge where you're at. So if you pull those three colors out, pause the video. If not, you can write red, yellow, or green. And I want you to think of uh, red as 1 through 3. And when I describe the situation as it relates to each area, if you relate to that, you would highlight the whole area yellow. If it's excuse me, pink if it's 1 through 3, yellow if it's 4 through 7, 8, 9, or 10, meaning pretty much almost everything's in place. Everything in my description is already in place and running in your business, and that would be the green pen. Okay, so with that, we wrote a whole book on this. It's got a number of chapters. Each chapter we kind of walk you through each one of the areas, but it's this in the recruiting industry is kind of an a very easy way to get kind of a basis of where you're at to show you that this will point you through at the end of the next 15-20 minutes, the exact spots to probably start to implement new things to get your business more functional, more profitable, more revenue, more clients. The whole concept of this is all progress here will start with you telling the truth, right? So if you think you're red, but maybe a little bit yellow, go with the lower number. No one has to see this. This is telling you because if you're really, people have told me, well, I'm red and I'm yellow, so is it pinkish? It's red because you give your illusion that instead of being a 3 or 4, you're really a 6 or 7. It's how the brain works. All progress starts with telling the truth. Be conservative in your assessment here because it's going to change. You're going to go from reds to yellows to greens if you do things the right way. So the first thing is in the optimizer model, it's all about having a real business, right? And a real business is one that you define for yourself, number one. Number two is there's elements of the business, all or in part, that can run without you, right? Even as a solo operator, there are ways, especially with the technology we have today, to so easily outsource things, to have a real business where the business is serving you and you're not serving it. And really the components with all the clients and the hundreds of clients we've worked with over the years, and even running my own recruiting firm, a real business has three key components. It has predictable profits, reliable growth. I should almost be in there, reliable and consistent growth, and business freedom. What does business freedom really mean? Business freedom is you play the role you want to play. There's no right or wrong role for an owner of a recruiting firm. It's your business. But if you're doing a lot of the things you find irritating, things that aren't getting done because you just don't want to do them, that is not business freedom. But great news is you can put yourself there. So the first core area we're going to talk about is certain revenue. If you have certain revenue, you have elements of predictable profits and reliable growth, right? So you can go from roller coaster revenue to steady income. All the people that talk to us all the time, placements up and down. And when we dig in and do kind of diagnostics, their activity isn't consistent. Revenue isn't consistent because activity isn't consistent. So to start with having certain revenue, actually, I'm sorry. The next core area is pursued partner, and that is going from annoying vendor to trusted advisor. That is having clients, pursued partner, meaning they're pursuing you once you've proven themselves to you. And there's systems and processes to become a pursued partner. And the last one is having a self-driving business. This is going from founder dependent to team run, from founder dependent to team run. Again, even as a solo operator, everything doesn't have to depend on you. You can have a virtual team, researchers, sourcers, even appointment setters, right? That are doing things that even if you're away, can be setting you up on appointments for when you get back. We're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. And the first area under certain revenue we want to talk about is having a clear written vision. It's hard to have very certain revenue when you're not clear on where you're at. You're green, you would highlight yourself green in clear written vision if you have clarity on where you're taking your firm 2 to 3 years out. Clarity, like you know what it looks like done 2 to 3 years out. You don't have to know how, but you know what it looks like done. This is in writing and outlines your role, your revenue, the type of client you serve, and what your team looks like, again, 2 to 3 years out. You may not be clear on how to get there, but you are clear on what this looks like. It's not, a couple 100,000 more in billings, having $1 million firm. You got to get really granular. Is it a virtual team? Do you have an office? What roles are people playing? What really the key here is what role you have. So you're green if that it is in writing and not in your head. You're red on the flip side. 3 years out, you don't even have a clear vision for the next 12 months. Your self-talk is, I need more placements. Why aren't my recruiters more productive? You tend to react to your days and wonder where your time has gone. You have little to nothing in writing as it relates to where you will be or your firm will be 12 months into the future. How do you use clear vision based on your desire to focus your efforts month to month, day to week to week, and day to day? You use it with our term called Recruiter GPS. Just metrics, KPIs, I think scare a lot of people. We changed the term to GPS because everyone loads in, just give me the address. We load it in our phone, and then we follow the turn-by-turn directions the car gives us. When you're going someplace you've never gone before, one must have a map. Directions today, again, it's GPS. For recruiters, getting to the next level requires mapping from where you are now to your future revenue. Would you just drive out your driveway, head to Los Angeles if you were leaving New York without a map or without directions, simply following the sun west? You wouldn't. To build a real business, you need Recruiter GPS, which is the knowledge of your key ratios to achieve a predetermined goal and revenue stability along the way. How thoroughly do you use your key numeric revenues to map out your business plan and your business quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily? You and your team. You're green if you know all, and the key word here is all, of your KPIs, meaning first interview to placement, how many submissions to a first-time interview, how many recruit conversations to get a submission or a first-time interview, your job order to placement ratio, marketing presentations to job order, meaning how many prospects you have to talk to get one search you're going to work on, and your average fee. Your roadmap of where you're focusing this week is based on where you're going for first-time interviews. First-time interviews, as we'll discuss throughout the training, is really the beacon. First-time interviews is the biggest predictor of placement revenue. So you're green if you know all of that down to like the 10th or 100th of a point, meaning when people say, well, I think my first-time interview is about 6 to 1, you don't know your first-time interview to placement ratio. my first time interview placement ratio ranges between 5.9 and 6.12 interviews per placement. That's how tight they are when you measure them over time. That's green. Red is you don't know your KPIs. You can't forecast revenue and placements appear somewhat random to you. You see, having a map, your GPS gives you crystal clear direction to hitting your billing target. By using our metrics tool and system, you get all the data you need to make this happen because it gives you exactly, it tells you exactly, specifically, and precisely how much activity has to occur every week and every day. The last area under certain revenues, okay, you have a vision. We can reverse engineer with GPS what the activity needs to be to at least hit the billing part of that vision. And now we're going to go to focused planning. The average business owner wastes 21.8 hours per week per Inc. magazine. To grow a real business is having annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily plans. One must know both the key metrics, but then use that data to gain 100% clarity on execution. The question then becomes, how often do you create quarterly, monthly, weekly, as well as daily plans in writing based on your annual targets? Your green, 8, 9, 10, if you have defined annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and billing daily plans in writing and you execute to your plan. Your plan is also based on your KPIs so that you're performing on a daily basis to your quarterly and annual targets. There really is no mystery as to what has to happen for you on any given day to hit your billing goal. That's green. Your red is you work off lists, not plans, and there's no defined annual business plan in writing versus in your head. And today's to-do list is simply a function of who calls or sends you emails or in-mails. I want you to imagine, and then you're yellow if you're obviously somewhere in between. I want you to imagine having 21.8 hours more per week, free. You need planning templates for each one of these time periods, and they're provided as part of the program you're in. The next area we're going to talk about is pursued partner, which is going from annoying vendor to trusted advisor. And the first area is new client development. To have a real business, one must have a steady flow of new incoming clients. Good businesses also evaluate and upgrade their clients by executing multiple marketing strategies to attract and procure these prospects. You must have a process that gets warm leads and turns them into clients. To what extent do you have multiple marketing strategies that generate consistent new client lead flow? You're green if you have a defined marketing plan for new client development that is executed on every week using multiple strategies on and off the phone that generate consistent new assignments and new clients. Your red is the definition there would be you only market when you need openings. There is no defined strategy, and one would define this as somewhat random. And then you're yellow if you're somewhere in between. When you have multiple prospects, you can ignore the ones that want you to be a vendor, that want you to work through a portal, want you to pay low fees, that want to have long money back guarantees. In the program, we're going to be teaching you 3 strategies of marketing without cold calling as 3 different options to get into new client development in a highly consultative approach. The next one is powerful presentation, right? So now you've done some new business development. Somebody tells you they have an opening. How do we approach the opening? The reason we get treated so poorly is because we in the industry ask the same questions as poor recruiters do. To distinguish yourself, one must change one's approach by uncovering at a deeper level the client's real problems and consequences of those problems not being solved quickly. Change your view of a search assignment to a diagnostic where you're truly diagnosing what their issues, challenges, and problems are. Clients will view you as different based on the quality of the questions you ask. They're not evaluating, quote unquote, your pitch. They're evaluating you by the quality of the questions you ask. So you're green if you have a clearly defined search assignment form for taking searches and a very powerful step-by-step process that yields retained searches at least 25% at 25% or higher fees. At the very least, exclusive contingency. You control the direction, pace, and time of these calls that you're on the phone with the client/prospect. On the flip side, you're red if you take openings on a process from memory that is not consistent and in many ways is a reaction to what the prospect is telling you. The prospect often controls where the conversation is going. That would make you red. And if you're somewhere and you really feel you're not fully red, but you're not fully green, you're in, I'd color this in this area in yellow. As Rob Mosley taught me 27 years ago, prescription without diagnosis is recruiting malpractice. The next area is flawless execution. The key to becoming a trusted advisor is that you must get a portfolio of high quality candidates. You must have a defined process for predictable candidate outcomes. You're green, I'm sorry. So the question then becomes, to what extent do you have a defined process for conducting a search from the research, sourcing, qualifying, prepping, and closing of the candidate? That's the question. To what degree? You're green if you have a defined search process, again, in writing, picking up the theme here. For the execution of searches, you have professional research, defined strategies, and numerical targets for each search. Execution follows a very defined process that yields a strong portfolio of candidates that has the clients in a quandary of which one of these do I hire? Red is your process looks like the following. You take a search, log into LinkedIn, looking for the very best profiles immediately, and you start sending in-mails. Yellow, you're somewhere in between. A defined search and selection process in writing gives prospects the confidence to work with you on your terms. In the last area, which is the self-driving business, which is going from founder dependent to team run, there's again 3 core areas. And the first one is recruiter retention. I could also put in this box, except we don't have enough space, recruiter attraction and retention. To hire and retain quality recruiters, you must have defined roles, outcomes, processes, and timelines to ensure their success and ultimately that they do not leave you. When you do this, your recruiters are more productive, much quicker, and they stay with you much longer. So the question then is, how thorough is your system for finding, hiring, training new recruiters? How well defined are your expectations during their tenure with you? Do you have defined expectations in writing for each stage of their development? Green is you have defined roles for new recruiters. Your recruiter targeting, finding, and interviewing process are all consistent and in writing. You have a defined training and onboarding process outlined in writing with defined numerical expectations and timelines for your new hires to benchmark their success. That's green. You're red, you don't hire because you believe it's too expensive, time consuming, and it isn't worth it. If and when you do hire, there are no defined timelines or expectations for the new hire. Your onboarding process is something akin to go get them. Many people, when I talk to owners, feel like they can't find good people. Um, they tell me they hired the wrong people. And I used to think that too before I uncovered that hiring, onboarding, setting expectations, and accountability are systems. Um, uh, what I ended up doing early in my career is I hired really good people into my bad system. So uh, the good, just again, green, red, somewhere in between, color this section in. The next area is scalable operation. The key to a self-driving business is that it must scale. To scale, people need to grow in their roles, and that occurs with a plan for them. So the question then becomes, how well defined are your career paths and personnel development systems and programs? You're green if recruiters have defined career paths based on targets they hit both numerically and career-wise. You have a personnel development program that works with your team based on their strengths. Your recruiters are advancing in their duties consistently, and you're coaching them on a schedule. That's great. You're coaching them kind of as their career slash mentor slash business coach on a schedule. Red is you are the people in your company, that you're doing everything. You're doing all your own research. You're doing, you don't have a virtual assistant, or you're doing all your own sourcing. That's red from a scalable operation standpoint. The good news is, as people grow in their roles, they need to be managed. Their need to be managed is less, and their need to be led grows. Leading takes a lot less time and energy than managing. The last area is the art of delegation. Now, a lot of your recruiters and recruiting firm owners can look this word up, Google it, find out the definition of the word delegation. We tend to have a lot of control freaks out there. Having said that, without delegating the right way, there's no path to a real business as one stays in that founder-dependent mode. Delegation is a replicable process that liberates you and allows for exponential growth. So the question becomes, how thoroughly have you delegated your administrative research as well as other tasks that can be done by others? You're green if you have an administrator, full-time preferred but not required, that handles data entry, invoicing, and other rote tasks. You outsource or delegate research. You also have a defined process for any delegation to ensure that it's clear to the recipient the outcomes that you want. Your red under delegation is if it means to you, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? That would be red in delegation. And obviously yellow somewhere in between. Learn the art of delegation as a path to business freedom and doing more of the things you enjoy, as well as limiting the tasks you find irritating. Our delegation system that we're going to teach you gives you the template and processes to implement this seamlessly. And once you put this in place, you have a real business. Now, a lot of you, from my experience, when we've done this, and we've implemented this model a number of years ago, is there's probably a lot of yellows and reds, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. Remember, I told you before we started this mini audit is all progress starts with telling the truth. If I had to point people to one place to start, is get clear on your vision, because without that, you're just wandering and you're drifting. And then work with your coach or your coaches, right, to determine where's the best place to start. Because I promise you, you're not going to be able to have a huge impact on all 9 areas in a short period of time. You can have impact on all of these 9 areas spread out over time so that you're not in overwhelm, but it's all about improving where you're taking you from where you're at, where's the lowest hanging fruit we can help you chip off to have the biggest impact with the most ease in growing your business. So hopefully this was helpful, and I'm excited to turn the reds yellow and the yellows green. Thanks so much.